The Impostor Bride, A Dangerous Deception. Chapter 1. A Name That Isn't Mine. The porcelain bath steamed in the candlelight as Leora sank deeper into the lavender-scented water. Rose petals floated on the surface, their perfume unable to mask the smell of her fear. Again, Lady Verity commanded from the shadows, her silk gown rustling as she moved closer. Scrub until your skin is raw. Every trace of soot and flour must be gone. Leora winced, taking the horsehair brush to her already tender flesh. The servants had been at this for hours, scrubbing away calluses, bleaching her sun-darkened hands, plucking and primping until she no longer recognized herself in the polished silver mirror. Her hands still betray her, Verity observed coldly, examining Leora's fingers with the scrutiny of a horse trader. These are baker's hands, servants' hands. Young Mira, barely 14 and the gentlest of the chambermaids, approached with pumice stone and oils. "Forgive me, my lady," she whispered to Leora, her own hands trembling. "This will hurt." Leora caught the girl's frightened eyes and nodded. At least someone else in this cursed place still had a soul. Just 2 days ago, she'd been kneading dough in her mother's cramped bakery, flour dusting her worn apron, counting copper coins to pay the miller. Now, she sat in the highest tower of Ravencrest Castle, surrounded by more luxury than she'd ever imagined, preparing to steal a dead woman's life. Princess Renessa was gone. Found 3 nights past in her chambers, an empty vial of nightshade beside her pale hand. She had chosen death over marriage to Prince Alaric, and now Leora, a commoner with an unfortunate resemblance and a talent for mimicry, would take her place at the altar. Heavy footsteps echoed up the stone stairs. Sir Daxton, the king's most trusted advisor, appeared in the doorway, his weathered face grim. "The prince's retinue has been spotted crossing Thornwick Bridge. We have perhaps an hour." Leora's stomach clenched like a fist. Prince Alaric, the wolf of Blackthorn, the Kingslayer, even in her remote village, mothers used his name to frighten disobedient children. They said he'd murdered his own father for the crown, that he collected the hearts of his enemies, that his touch could freeze blood in veins. "Stand," Lady Verity ordered. Leora rose from the bath, water cascading from her newly pale skin as the servants wrapped her in warming cloths. They moved with practiced efficiency, drying and anointing her body with oils and perfumes that cost more than her family earned in a year. Only 5 people knew the truth of this deception. The 6th was buried beneath the castle crypts. "Arms up," commanded Helene, the head seamstress, as they lowered a gown of moonlight blue over Leora's head. The silk flowed like water, embedded with tiny pearls that caught the firelight. She had never worn anything finer than rough-spun wool, and the sensation made her skin crawl with its alien softness. "Your Highness," Daxton called from beyond the door. "Are you prepared?" "Your Highness." The words still tasted like ash in her mouth. Leora practiced Princess Renessa's voice, cultured, melodious, touched with just enough melancholy to be intriguing. "Yes, my lord," she replied, fighting to keep the tremor from her words. The plan was mad in its simplicity. Impersonate the princess, wed the prince, secure the alliance between Ashenmoor and Blackthorn that would prevent a war neither kingdom could survive. "Let me see her," Lady Verity said, circling Leora like a predator studying prey. She lifted sections of Leora's golden hair, lightened further with chamomile rinses and woven with silver threads, inspecting every detail. "She'll suffice. The bone structure is near enough. Same height, same golden coloring. Thank the gods for dim candlelight and masculine inattention." Leora touched her elaborately braided golden hair, now adorned with tiny silver bells that chimed softly when she moved. Nothing about her reflection felt real. "What of her mannerisms?" Daxton pressed. "She's been well trained," Verity replied, adjusting the golden circlet on Leora's brow. "The girl learns quickly. She's observed nobles at market, studied their speech patterns. Most importantly, she knows how to keep her mouth shut." Leora bit back a retort. She had been trained, yes. Trained to serve, to curtsy, to make herself invisible in the presence of her betters. But pretending to be born to rule, that was an entirely different sort of performance. Old Willem, the castle's most senior guard, entered with measured steps. His scarred face bore the weight of 40 years of service, and his eyes held secrets that could topple kingdoms. "The lad will do well enough." he said quietly, studying Leora with something that might have been sympathy. "She has steel in her spine. I've seen it." Daxton checked the candle clock burning on the mantel. "Time grows short. We must move." "Child," Willem said, his gruff voice gentling as he approached. Unlike the others, he looked directly into her eyes. "Do you understand the weight of what you carry?" She nodded, throat tight. "Yes, sir. If you falter, if Prince Alaric suspects even for a moment, it means more than disgrace. It means the end of everything. He's got armies at his back and a temper like wildfire. Cross him, and he'll paint these walls with blood. And if I don't falter," she whispered. Willem's expression softened almost imperceptibly. "Then you'll save 2 kingdoms, girl. Maybe find some happiness in the bargain." "My family?" The question slipped out before she could stop it. Lady Verity barely glanced her way. "Safe. Relocated to the northern provinces with new names and enough gold to live comfortably, assuming you play your part." Leora closed her eyes, picturing her mother's worried face, her younger brother's gap-toothed grin. They thought she'd taken work in the capital. They had no idea their safety now depended on her ability to deceive one of the most dangerous men alive. "No time for sentiment," Verity snapped, seeing the emotion flicker across Leora's features. "This isn't some minstrel's tale of true love. This is survival." The great bells of Ravencrest began to toll, their bronze voices echoing across the countryside. Prince Alaric had arrived. Sir Daxton straightened his ceremonial armor. "Positions, everyone. Remember, she is Princess Renessa, beloved daughter of King Aldric, bride-to-be of Prince Alaric. Nothing else matters." Guards fell into formation around them as they descended the ancient stone steps. Leora's silk slippers whispered against worn stones, where countless other brides had walked to their fates. Torches lined the corridors, casting dancing shadows that seemed to mock her pretense. "Keep your eyes lowered until he addresses you directly," Verity murmured as they approached the Great Hall. "Speak little, smile less. Let him believe you're shy, not terrified." Through the massive oak doors, Leora could hear the murmur of assembled nobles, the clink of wine cups, the rustle of fine fabrics. Every person in that room outranked her by birth, and any one of them might recognize her deception. The doors groaned open on ancient hinges, revealing a hall ablaze with hundreds of candles. Tapestries depicting glorious battles covered the stone walls, and long tables groaned under the weight of silver platters and crystal goblets. The assembled nobles turned as one, their faces a sea of curiosity and calculation. Leora took her place on the dais beside King Aldric's empty throne. He was too ill to attend, another convenience that made this mad scheme possible. She arranged her skirts with practiced grace and folded her hands, willing them not to shake. The herald's voice boomed across the hall. "Presenting His Royal Highness, Prince Alaric of Blackthorn, Lord Commander of the Eastern Reaches, Defender of the Realm." No fanfare, no elaborate procession. He simply walked through the doors, tall and broad-shouldered, dressed in black leather and steel, a wolf's head pendant gleaming gold at his throat. His chestnut hair was cropped shorter than fashion dictated. He moved like a predator, each step purposeful, commanding attention without needing to ask for it. Leora's breath caught in her throat. Whatever she had expected, it wasn't this. He was younger than the stories suggested, likely in his 20s, and devastatingly handsome in a way that felt almost dangerous. His presence filled the room like smoke, thick and inescapable, making everyone else seem smaller by comparison. He approached the dais alone, his retinue hanging back by the doors. When he stopped before her, close enough that she could smell leather and steel and something wilder, pine forests and winter storms, she felt the weight of his scrutiny like a physical touch. She rose and curtsied as she'd been taught, silk pooling around her feet. "Your Highness," she said, praying her voice remained steady, "I am honored by your presence." Silence stretched between them, broken only by the whisper of flames and the shuffle of feet as nobles strained to hear. When she finally dared to raise her eyes, he was still watching her with an intensity that made her want to run. His eyes were light brown, warm yet piercing, and in them she saw intelligence, suspicion, and something else she couldn't name. He stepped closer, close enough that propriety demanded she step back. She held her ground. "Princess Renessa," he said, his voice a low rumble that seemed to reach inside her chest. "You look different than I expected." Her heart hammered against her ribs, but she managed a small smile. "I hope not disappointingly so, my lord." His mouth quirked at one corner, not quite a smile, but something more dangerous. "No," he said quietly, his eyes never leaving hers. "Not disappointing at all." He extended his hand, and she placed hers in it, feeling the calluses on his palm, the controlled strength in his fingers. When he lifted her hand to his lips, she felt the whisper of his breath against her skin, and had to lock her knees to keep from swaying. "Welcome to Ravencrest, Your Highness," she managed. "The pleasure," he said, still holding her hand, still watching her with those amber-lit eyes, "is entirely mine." But even as he smiled, even as the assembled nobles began to relax and reach for their wine cups, Leora caught something flickering in his expression. A question, a doubt. As if he were a wolf who had caught an unfamiliar scent on the wind and was trying to decide whether his prey was worth the hunt.